That was grocery. Huh? That was grocery. Hi, Joe. How are you?
They have to.
Were you there the whole time?
Everything snuck in.
Interesting.
You want this too?
No, I just needed my pad.
You are Kevin, right? Kevin? Ready?
Good to go.
All right, it's 6 p.m. Call the village board meeting to order. If you'd all join me in a moment of silence, please. And the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Clerk, do you have the roll, please?
Trustee Mann.
Here.
Trustee Gerger.
Present.
Trustee Detmers.
Here.
Trustee Mao.
Here.
Trustee Scherzo.
Present.
Mayor Kimsey.
Present. Trustee Chara was absent.
Absent.
Public announcements? Hearing none. Public comments on the agenda topics? We had no one sign up this evening. So I'll entertain a motion to put the consent agenda on the table.
Make that motion.
Trustee Miles made a motion. Have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Detmers. Questions or comments regarding the minutes or the warrants?
The only comment I would have on the warrants, was brought to, in looking through the warrants, was the IML conference and the amount that we paid for that. And I know in talking to Pat, it was all within the scope or things that were reimbursable, but we as a board might want to look at. I know as a state employee, I have to go the cheapest route I can, of transportation. And if I don't, I can take my own transportation, but they'll only reimburse me at that cheapest thing. And then maybe looking at a Fed reimbursable per diem, just because it's a pretty large amount that went through there for one of the trustees. And just going forward, we may want to look at something like that. I don't know if anybody else had thoughts on it.
That's the guidelines that were followed. They turned in higher amounts than that, but they were only paid what the feds would allow for a visit to Chicago at that area.
Okay, so that's what they were. But I know I can't drive my own vehicle as a state employee. I have to take the train. And then if that's not available, I have to rent a car. And then the last resort, because if you take your own car, you're paying $60 a night for parking. You're paying mileage, which is probably $250 to take your own vehicle.
Since that trustee is not here tonight, would you want to just table that part so that trustee can speak to that at the next board meeting?
I think you should go ahead and pay the amounts because those did meet the guidelines that were in
We had that
place.
discussion.
Right.
Like I said, if you choose not to send people to the municipal league conference in the
Right.
future, next year when we get to budget time, we will make sure that money is not in there. That's the easiest way to take care of it.
Or we just set parameters. This
How
is,
much can be spent.
yeah, this is how we would, just so you're a better steward of the people's money in that. Okay. I know I was always, and it seems like Mr. Mao was very cognizant of those facts and it's not in any way disparaging because the rules were followed, but we should probably just discuss maybe putting in rules for next year.
The thing that I don't understand is why the municipal league picks a hotel.
In downtown
but the
Chicago.
rate is higher than what the feds allow for you to stay at.
Correct. Yeah, I don't get that either.
Anyway, that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah.
Any other
that's-
questions?
So that was it.
Hearing none, Mr. Clerk.
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmers.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Scherzo.
Yes.
All right, no old business. Under new business, we have a resolution recognizing the achievements of the Glenwood Middle School Girls Cross Country Team, the 2019 IESA Class 3A State Champions. Can I have a motion to bring this to the table?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Trustee Detmer, second by Trustee Gerger. The ladies are with us tonight, so I'd like to read this for you and then offer our congratulations. So, recognizing the achievements of the Glenwood Middle School Girls Cross Country Team, the 2019 IESA Class 3A State Champions. Whereas the members of the corporate authorities of the Village of Chatham are pleased to congratulate the Glenwood Middle School Girls Cross Country Team on the occasion of winning the 2019 IESA Class 3A Middle School State Championship. And whereas on October 19th, 2019, the Glenwood Middle School girls earned Glenwood Middle School their 6th girls cross-country state title in the past 13 years. And whereas the team placed 3 all-state runners in the meet, with Lydia Guernsey placing 24th, Elise DeStasio placing 11th, and Ava Gorey placing 9th, her 3rd straight all-state honor. And whereas the team's season included victories in regionals, the Big 12 Invite, and the Kingsley Invite, as well as a 2nd place finish at the Parkside Invite and a 4th place finish at the East Peoria Invite, and the team was also undefeated in their regular season meet schedule. Whereas the hardworking and dedicated members of the Glenwood Middle School Girls Cross Country Team are Cameron Robbins, Stella Evans, Rowan Law, Rachel Behrens, Allie Knudsen, Rylan Law, Lydia Guernsey, Ava Gorey, Maddie Iwaniki, and Elise DeStasio, coached by Ryan Staley, Lisa Bostrom, and Frank Ferensky. Now therefore be it resolved by the President and Board of Trustees of the Village of Chatham, Sangamon County, Illinois, that we congratulate the members of the Glenwood Middle School's Girls Cross Country Team on the occasion of winning the Class 3A State Championship and wish them many more years of continued success. So girls, yeah, come up here and take a picture with us. We're going to give you copies of these when we get them printed up. Found a spelling mistake.
One time I get to be in the second row. Yeah.
Any more
Did you
pictures?
get yours, Craig, or you just?
He's still in the chair.
Ladies, congratulations. 6 people read that, and I don't find their spelling mistake. Middles.
Oh.
All right. Do we have a vote on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
How many?
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you, ladies. How many 7th graders we got in that group? So we're winning next year again, right?
Not any
We'll
pressure.
see you guys here next year.
Usually Trustee Mao challenges any track champions to race around the block, but it's a little cold tonight, so he said he wanted to pass.
I'm sure Mrs. Schersch would want me to tell you congratulations tonight as well. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Item 2, under new business, equally as exciting as cross-country track.
Oh, he's setting you up.
Kevin Kavanaugh is here from Lauterbach and Amon. They're our actuaries for Police Pension Board. He's going to make the annual actuarial presentation for us. So, Mr. Kavanaugh, the floor is yours.
Maybe not quite as thrilling as the cross country championship. So congratulations to the girls there. But I'm here today to go over the actuarial presentation. So we do 3 reports actually annually for the Village of Chatham. 2 of those are for the Police Pension Fund. 1 is for the post-retirement medical plan for the village. Really, the primary objective of my presentation today is to go over the funding report, or we also call it the tax levy report, which is the documentation basically of this year's recommended contribution from the village to the police pension fund. I will just say to the audience, I think that presentation's on the screen. If anyone wants a paper copy, I have a few with me. Does anybody want paper? Are you good with the screen? Okay.
Why would he want one?
Yeah, what does he care?
And I believe all the trustees, you have a paper copy. As
We
well
do.
as the electronic, so we should be all set here. So just getting right into it. If we turn to the first page, it's going to have the bottom line results for this year. So you'll see that recommended contribution this year right up at the top comes in at just about $666,000. Represents about a 5.1% increase from last year's recommended contribution to the police pension fund. I'll just say with that payment for this year is broken down into really two components. One is to address the existing unfunded liability for the pension fund, which you'll see listed there about halfway down the page at just about $5.5 million. The other component is referred to as the normal cost, essentially is the benefit accrual for this year for all the active police officers. So the breakdown of that is about roughly 2/3 of this year's payment is towards that unfunded liability, and 1/3 is for this year's benefit accrual for all the active officers. You'll see that the prior year's contribution came in at $634,000, ended this fiscal year just below 60% funded at 59.69, which is an increase of about 0.5% from last year. You'll see the breakdown of the fund population at the bottom of page 1. So it's 14 active members, 7 inactive. Basically 2/3 of the population is active, which is kind of when we compare across different Illinois police and fire pension funds, you're kind of in the category of a younger fund in being that breakdown of much more heavily weighted towards active employees as opposed to inactive. Some funds we work with, I was out at LaGrange the other day, their fund is actually more geared towards inactive employees. So that's one thing that we'll keep that in mind going forward. When we make our funding recommendations, we're always funding for future benefit accruals. So you'll see that if you turn to page 2. We show our current benefit payments. That's what was paid out in regular benefit payments over the past fiscal year. The fiscal year ended April 30, 2019 at $385,000. And over the next 5 years, we expect to see that benefit payment annually increase to about $603,000. In 10 years from now, about $906,000. So one comment I'll make about this is when we compare across, at Lauterbach and Eamon, we work with about 350 Illinois police and fire pension funds. So we have a pretty good metric of kind of what we see as the average versus what's out of the norm. These benefit payment increases are a little higher than we would generally see for most funds that we work with. A lot of that is because of the fact that the population is more geared towards active employees right now. So not as many members in payment, meaning future benefit payments we're expecting to see increases a little higher than what we'd expect to see for the average fund. You turn to that next page 3. This is going to be a breakdown of the fund's net position. So this is all in the village's audit, but basically a few things I'll highlight on this page. Started the fiscal year at about $7.3 million, ended the fiscal year at about $7.9 million, for a net increase of about $600,000 in the total market value of assets. That second line item there, the employer contributions, that represents the village's contribution to the police pension fund for the past fiscal year. That is exactly in line with exactly 100% of what we recommended to contribute for this year. So it's nice to see that essentially what that shows is that the village is doing their part to make these recommended contributions that we calculate every year to the police pension fund. If you turn your eyes down a couple more line items, you'll see that return on investments came in for the year at $359,000. Translates in terms of percentage to about a 4.6% annualized return versus the expected return assumption, which is 6.25%. So anytime there's a deviation in terms of those returns not hitting the 6.25%, then we're always going to recommend an additional contribution from the village to make up for that shortfall. So you'll see that there on the next page, which I'll go over.
Quick question.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said 604 met what we were supposed to fund, but it says prior year contribution requirement was 634 on the first page.
Yeah, so there's actually a 2-year lag. So
Okay.
When I say
Got it.
that 604 is basically in line with what we recommended for the fiscal year.
2 years ago.
17. Yep.
Got it.
Yeah, it's due to the kind of the timing of the levy and then when property taxes are received. So that's pretty standard. But yeah, good comment there. If you turn to page 4, see a couple things here. So actually, I'll skip ahead actually to your comment because that's addressed here on page 4. So if you look at that second to last line item, you see it says contributions greater or less than expected caused a $2,900 increase, meaning they're less than expected. The reason for that is exactly because of the 2-year lag. So when we do the funding every year, we're always comparing against what came in this year versus what we recommended last year. But the reality is it's a 2-year lag. So it's just a timing only on this line item. So that's just a true up to keep you in line with that funding policy, which is targeting 100% funding over the next 17 years. The other line items on this page, that first one is expected changes. So every year, just the way that the payments towards unfunded liability are structured, we expect to see increases. So we expected to see about a $20,000 increase this year. You'll see at the bottom, the net total increase was about $32,000, so we're a little above expectation. And some of that was offset actually by salary increases that came in less than expected. Led to a net reduction here of about $4,800 on the contribution. Demographic changes for the fund during the fiscal year. The only notable demographic activity we saw was one member retired. In addition to that, it's really just the aging of the population. So we have all these assumptions for actuarial experience, who's going to terminate, retire, pass away, all these things. So to the extent those things don't happen, generally you're going to see an increase in recommended contribution. So that's what that $4,000 represents. The next one there is asset returns less than expected. Already kind of touched on that. So that's the $9,200. And then I already touched on the contributions. So that's our net $32,000 increase in the contribution this year. A little bit higher than we generally expect to see on average, but not too far off. If you turn to page 5, that's just a summary of that demographic experience. So I've already touched on that. The one officer retired. A few members who were inactive just maintained that benefit collection status, which is good. They didn't pass away, so good to see them continuing to live. And on page 6 here, you're going to see the same breakdown that I went over. Just really what this is showing you is the impact on funded percentage rather than the impact on recommended contribution. So you can see how you got from last year's funded percentage at 59.26 to this year's at 59.69%, trending in the right direction for sure.
What year was it when we expected to be fully funded?
17 more.
17 more years.
From now, yeah, exactly, so 2036.
Now, is there any current I know there's some pension legislation in veto session. Will that affect this at all?
Yeah, it's a great question. It honestly is a huge question mark right now. So in terms of the results I'm presenting today, no, it wouldn't impact these results. But on a going forward basis, if that legislation passes, if the consolidation legislation passes, it's really 2 main components to it. The one is the consolidation for investment purposes, which theoretically, or at least according to the task force report, would be beneficial to the fund in the long term in seeing increased returns on investments. The other component there is the increases to Tier 2 benefits. So if those Tier 2 benefits are increased, and for those who are not aware of the situation, is basically Tier 2 members as any police officer or firefighter hired after January 1st, 2011, who does not have prior service with any other downstate Article 3 or 4 Illinois Police and Fire Pension Fund. So those benefits, essentially what happened was there was a legal opinion that there's the potential in the future for those Tier 2 benefits to fall below Social Security level benefits. So the safe harbor provision basically says that if you're an employee and you're not paying into Social Security, the benefit that you receive must be at least equal to or greater than Social Security benefit. And so the concern there is that the salary cap for Tier 2 benefits is limited to 1/2 of CPI. Social Security benefits increase faster. So then we think the concern is that could be way out in the future. Those Tier 2 benefits could fall below Social Security benefit levels. So if that revision does happen, you'll see an increase in recommended contribution. We don't expect it to be a massive increase because the changes are fairly minor in the way they're structured. But we're keeping an eye on that. And I know that today was day 1 of this veto session. So next 48 hours, I think we'll have a lot of potential changes or things to look out for. The last page of my presentation, really, and then I'll just open that up to any questions, There's a couple of results from the other report that we complete. This is for financial statement reporting. It's referred to as the GASB 6768 report. And you'll see the net pension liability. This is what ends up on the village's balance sheet for their financial statements. Comes in at just over $5.5 million on a net pension expense this year at $813,000. And then that's pretty much it for what I had to go over with the board. And then if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to entertain them.
Questions for Mr. Gavino? Chief Foley, would you like to ask a question?
Just a quick question. I think you hit on page 4. You said that the fiscal return was 6.25% of what you said, and we fell short of that at 4 point something. What's that attributed to?
So 4.6%. I mean, it could be a lot of things. It's generally in line with the experience we're seeing with most funds that we work with for this fiscal year. A lot of it is due to the December was a really bad month in the markets. I'll tell you, for our December fiscal year end clients, absolutely hammered by that. We saw returns as bad as -6%, -7%, which is really painful from an actuarial standpoint because we're basically every year we have that expected return for this fund at 6.25%. We're assuming the assets grow at 6.25. If you have returns that are negative, now we assume 6.25, but now you're also negative, so now it's like you're doubling it. So I think that has partially to do with it. The market has rebounded a lot since December, and I think basically all those losses have been made up through this fiscal year. But yeah, I mean, I would say that it's basically the market and the timing of the fiscal year end and other factors regarding investment allocation authority. Basically, the fund is restricted in terms of how much can be invested into equities versus fixed income, which in the long run can definitely hurt returns when you're kind of seeking the equities that are returning higher in these types of periods that we've had recently.
If you want to go further, this is the crux of the consolidation argument.
Yeah. And it'll change the mix too, won't it?
Yeah, I believe, and I haven't read all 110 pages of the proposed bill, but I believe that a part of that is that they would change the investment authority restrictions. I mean, that would pretty much be the primary reason that you could see higher returns.
It does. I read it today,
Oh, you read through the whole thing?
unfortunately.
Nice.
For my work.
Congratulations, you made
He
it.
only read 108 of the 10.
Yeah.
For my work. It's, oof,
Any other questions?
Fun stuff.
great job.
All right, thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
For your time.
Thank you very much.
Drive safely. Item 3 is an ordinance annexing certain property to the Village of Chatham. A motion to bring this to the table.
Make that motion.
Trustee Miles made a motion of second.
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Gerger. This is Zimmerly property. This is immediately south of
Glenwood Lake,
Glenwood Lake Estates.
we signed a pre-annexation agreement back in December of 2010, and they're contiguous now, so just automatically bring them in.
So where is it?
It's a lot and house immediately south of the Glenwood Lake subdivision.
Got it. All right. Good to be from it.
Any other questions? Hearing none. Mr. Clerk?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Mao.
Yes.
Trustee Churchill.
Yes.
Item 4 is an ordinance amending the Village of Chatham Code of Ordinance, Title 11, Chapter 110, business license pertaining to massage establishments and massage services. Can I have a motion to bring this to the table?
Make that motion.
Trustee Miles made a motion to have second.
I'll second.
Second by Trustee Detmers. Any comments or discussion? Hearing none.
I tried to
Go ahead.
call trustees to let them know
Yeah.
about this and fill them in. Some of them were unavailable, and I did not get to them. I'd be more than happy to.
We called back. I
explain-
called back.
Oh, did you? I'd be more than happy to explain it to you later.
Well, it clarifies licensing and citing of certain businesses.
The citing of when they don't meet the licensing requirements.
Cite actual where they can be.
Locations.
Right.
Zoning.
Okay.
Where they can be, that they have to have all the proper licenses, they have to come in and report and fill out all that information here. Vern's got the report, or the application, would you say it's 8 pages long? Yeah. But
Okay.
it'll protect the village better than what we currently have in place for massage parlors.
Got it.
Mr. Clerk?
Trustee Mann.
Yes.
Trustee Gerger.
Yes.
Trustee Detmer.
Yes.
Trustee Miles.
Yes.
Trustee Scherzo.
Yes.
All right, public comments on village business, Mr. Dowell.
How are you guys?
Good. We actually, these are taped and live streamed, so if you come up and talk into the microphone.
So I work for a group that's working with Neiman's Foods. They own County Markets, Save-A-Lots, Ace Hardwares, and all that. They've tasked us with trying to increase the revenue streams. Grocery store business is a very, very slim margin. They make a lot of money, but they don't turn a lot of profit. One of the revenue streams that they're exploring is putting game rooms in some of their grocery stores. Very high-end game rooms, enclosed rooms, doors, nondescript kind of thing. They found that women, female players are some of the better gamers that are going to do these things. So they're looking at increasing the revenue streams by maybe adding the game rooms in some of these stores. So we're here to ask about a consumption license to see if we, could go about getting that attached to the carry package license too. So that's just want to see.
Have you had a chance to go through what our license requirements are as it relates to gaming and consumption?
They would have to acquire a tavern license unless they were going to serve food in that area. You could get a restaurant license. But either of those could have gaming attached to it. He hasn't filled out an application yet because I wanted him to come and kind of get a feel for whether the board had, a palate for that or not.
I can tell you, me personally, I would not.
Yeah, personally, I don't think I would either, just because in that survey that we did, people made it clear that they didn't want more gaming or more alcohol. Anyone else?
That survey, I believe it was like 87% of our respondents to that survey, which was just a few months ago, said they didn't want any more gaming.
Less gaming.
I would not, going with the survey, 87% don't want more, but I'm also not 100% against looking into the idea. I don't know how it could be framed or done, but I think to at least look at the idea is an opportunity. But, to just shut the door on it, I'm against that. But I also look at the survey too, and when the majority of the survey takers say, "Hey, we don't want more," I have been in areas of the country where they allow gaming in grocery stores, and they're not bad areas, but I don't know that that's what we necessarily want here. But I also don't think we should shut the door on the idea. I think we should, if they've done it other places, look and see how it's been done.
I can provide that information for you too. They're actually getting ready to open one in Quincy. And what they've done is it's in the liquor store there. Each of the stores obviously are different because they've built them different sizes and stuff. So each of them, they have a plan that would, they'd have a designer look at. That one looks like almost like a closet. It just basically, the only way you know it's a game room is it's got a gaming thing right on the front door of the room that goes in. So it's a closed off class room. 21, these guys are great at managing people under 21, not going into these locations. So.
Okay. Pat, can you get him a copy of how our ordinance reads? Our liquor license ordinance, when there is gaming in the establishment, are different than a lot of other places. And so there's other revenues that have to be factored into it. So I think it's something that, as you considered, if you want to pursue this further, it's important that you understand what's in that and make sure that you can hit those targets.
Greg, maybe you can help answer that. If they already have a package license for the grocery store, would the grocery store own the gaming location, or is it a separate business?
No, it'd be in the business, yes.
Okay. So would they get a second license to be able to have a pour license there? Or would you switch the license for the store to a tavern license where they could sell package and?
Well, my initial thought, and I'd go back and look to see if we're allowed to do this, would be they'd want to define the premises differently and have 2 licenses, have a package for a majority of the store. And it depends if you're going for a restaurant license. I mean, you mentioned County Market. I know that they do sell some food there.
So one of the county markets, actually what they've done is because they serve food, they're actually expanding the restaurant so that it's become it's going to be under the restaurant part of it.
So if it's more like that, then you get a restaurant license for that area, and then you'd have your package. Otherwise, we'd probably recommend doing a tavern for just the gaming and liquor pour area, and to find that premises really small, so they're only allowed to pour in that area.
But the problem that you'll run into there is, to get that license, you have to have sales from some other item than gaming to amount to 60% of the income for that. And if you don't sell food in there, then you're not gonna be able to do it.
So it seemed like we'd be better off to go after.
So without advising, which stop at some point on it, offering, I think it's important that you get the specific ordinance and look through that and make sure that it makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
And something if you want to proceed or not.
No, I appreciate that, so thanks.
Oh, and I just have a little other question. So from what I heard from you, it's like going to be a Miss Kimmy's or something like that inside
Correct.
County Market? It's not? Okay.
Correct, yeah, so.
Because I know that's an issue we've discussed on this board before too, the Miss Kimmy's, those little gaming things. And, in the past, we have not been too supportive of those.
Any other questions for us, Mr. Bell?
I think that's it.
All right, thank you. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any additional public comment? Hearing none, scheduled meetings, the ADA Transition Plan Committee, 6 PM, November 19th. Fire and Police Commission, November 20th, 5:30. Planning Commission, still on pat, 6 PM on the 21st. Board meets the 26th, 6 PM. Utility Oversight Subcommittee meeting, 6 PM, December 9th. Village Board again, December 10th, followed by the Committee of the Whole and Public Properties and Recreation Committee, January 13th of 2020. No need for closed session.
Actually, utility subcommittee meeting will be the 18th of this month out at the water plant. We will go directly after their board meeting.
The Wednesday?
That's right.
Yeah.
Forgot that.
And their meeting starts at what time?
I think they're at
5:30.
5:30, and we'll be directly proceeding that. That way we already know where Lee is, and we'll go to him.
The Public Properties Commission too. We were unable to meet yesterday due to weather, so I believe we're looking for November 25th, 6 PM.
Oh, my birthday.
Brett will be there. Sorry, Brett will be there for his birthday.
Yeah.
All right, no need for closed session. We have a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Motion by trustee Gerger, second by trustee Detmers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting stands adjourned.
Call to order
We're good. You're up.
for the committee of the whole. Roll call.
Trustee Mann.
Present.
Trustee Gerger.
Present.
Trustee Detmers.
Here.
Trustee Mao.
Here.
Trustee Scherzo.
Present.
Okay, public comments on agenda topics. We had nobody sign in. Have a motion to bring the consent agenda forward.
I'll make the motion.
Trustee Detmers,
I'll second.
second by trustee Scherschel. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Old business ordinance amending Title III of the Village Code establishing certain meeting procedures. This is where we were talking about having procedures in place, just because we don't have procedures. Was everybody able to look at it and come up with some ideas and discussion? Did trustee Charo have anything? I know she was thinking about putting something in writing, just
I didn't get anything.
anything? Okay.
So I did. I have two things. Well, number one, I've read through this several times. Number one thing that I would like to see us do is item number 5 is strike that completely. And then beyond that, I don't really have any other issues with this. It did take me a little bit to come to terms with Let me find it. Item number 10, so 6-10. I think that's what it is.
6.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
6B10?
Kind of on the
Just
page.
10.
Motion to move to the previous question?
Yeah, it was the motion, so, but after thinking about this for quite a while and kind of digesting its purpose, I'm fine with it. I think what this is basically saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong, if anybody else has another thought, but this would be during a debate, if that debate is continuing on too long, you could ask for a motion to essentially limit the debate, which then would cut that down to an additional 20 minutes only. So after thinking about this, I don't think I have a problem with that, because this would require a majority vote or a 2/3 vote to actually get to that step. So that's kind of a fail-safe for a filibuster.
It's not quite what is it, though.
Right.
Well,
So a motion to move the question means we're going to take a vote on whatever the question is right now. What this says is if somebody makes that motion prior to 20 minutes, you have to get it on 2/3 vote of the board. After 20 minutes, you can do it with a simple majority. But that's in the debate question.
right, that's as
Not a-
part of the actual debate that's going, so a motion during the debate would have to happen to get to this point. And that's, I guess, the part that I'm okay with. That's, after thinking about it, that's where I'm fine with it.
I just want to be clear, it doesn't add another 20 minutes to it.
Well, correct, right.
So to,
The timing, but it's okay. I'm fine with it. I just wanted to point it out. But after thinking about it, digesting it, rationalizing it, I'm okay with it.
my only question with that, Trustee Mann, so it says in there to ensure if made before the 20 minutes of debate and the opportunity of each board member to make both an initial comment and rebuttal comment. So that ensures everyone has had that opportunity to make that initial comment. If we were to strike that
Number 5.
number 5, which gives everyone that 10 minutes, so you're giving that ability to speak for 10 minutes. What does that mean if it's you get an initial comment? How is that defined then?
Yeah, if you're after the 20 minutes, so say Trustee Mass spoken for 15 and Trustee Detmers has spoken for 10, can somebody then make a motion and we can vote on it and we will be out of it?
No,
Does everybody have to have a chance? And then I don't know that everybody has to have a chance, because if somebody takes up the whole 20 minutes, it's saying after 20 minutes, somebody can make the motion and you can
No,
move forward.
it's got an and in there. So everybody has to have a chance.
But if everybody has a chance, everybody could take 20 minutes.
10 minutes. According to.
Well, that's what Trustee Scherschel's saying, is number 5 is what kind of establishes
what the initial
parameters
comment and rebuttal is.
for
Well,
that.
if we don't remove 5, then we remove then I want it changed so it says, then it would be given a chance or an opportunity to speak on the pending motion
Yeah.
with no time limit. If we don't strike 5 from it, then I want it to be changed to a given the opportunity or something along those lines.
To
Then you-
strike that ability, there is a motion to,
If you don't limit the time, then it's never going to be just over 20 minutes. So Matt could go till the morning, I could go till the next evening, you could go, because we all haven't had the opportunity.
Yeah, I'm
After
not worried about the time.
Well, I mean, but I'm saying after the 20 minutes, you couldn't make the motion, because not everybody's. So if you don't have 5, then we shouldn't even really worry about.
And I'd be fine with striking 10 too, if we wanted
Yeah.
to take it out.
My only issue would be, and I can see, lifting up 10 to 15 minutes. If we're going to speak for more than, if each of us is going to speak for more than 15 minutes on any topic, it should probably be the subject of a public meeting, a special meeting. It shouldn't, by the time it's gotten to here,
Well, I guess, so to your point, yeah, I mean, to speak on any matter for 10 minutes is a long time.
is a long time.
No one's listening to you after.
Right, no, exactly, I don't want to.
And a full debate should happen.
Right, so that's my whole point is I don't want to see any of the limitations put in place. So if that's the case, if we upped this to
15.
15 or
And then
20 minutes,
What if we put a caveat, a rule in there, if every trustee is wanting to go over 15 minutes to get their piece heard, then it would trigger the need for a public meeting.
Well, right
I don't
now,
know that that's necessary.
I don't know that that's.
you can have a motion to suspend rules, though. We have a motion to suspend
there's-
rules in here.
Right.
Or essentially, that would be it. So someone could make that motion and
Right,
that essentially do that.
okay.
Because if you, truthfully, if you guys decide that each one of you is needing to speak for 15 minutes, you really need to decide at that time. You don't need to come back and revisit it.
Right. 15 minutes is a long time to discuss anything.
10 minutes is a long time.
I would not
understand
disagree.
what you're saying, Ryan, but it may be worthwhile to try this, and then if it doesn't work or we run into a problem,
We can suspend that part of the rule.
and then, or change it then.
Right.
I don't think we've ever had a meeting that, since I've been attending and been on it, that would even come into effect.
One time.
Yeah, I still think 5 and 10 need to be struck. There's also one in here that says you can't bring up an issue again for 60 or 90 days. Is that right, or did I read that wrong?
The motion,
You can't revisit it.
That's a
Agenda
Robert's
item?
rules, yeah.
Huh?
That's a Robert's rules, yeah.
I know which one you're talking.
Okay, then I think that should be struck also.
You have to make a motion to do it.
Well, yeah, it was more about, it's a procedural thing, where's that one?
number 16.
It's not that you can't do it.
Is it the,
It's an option
So-
to by motion
is
act.
it the 16 issue? Okay.
I would just say, so we all know, right now, we're abiding by no rules. So whoever's the chair, so if the last meeting, if the mayor doesn't want, if he wants to stop discussion, he can. And if I'm the chair of this one, if I want to stop discussion, I can. And if I do that and make somebody mad, then you guys vote me out as chair, and then Matt's the chair. If he wants to stop discussion, he can. So I think it's important we have rules in place.
Right.
And we have a structure, just so we do get everybody to be able to speak on whatever topic.
And
Because
I'm not saying rules aren't important, but I'm just saying these ones that I've addressed and other trustees have addressed, I feel should be struck.
Well,
For the reasons I've given in the past.
I understand with the flow of discussion, because I think we need that. We have good flow of discussion. The 16, what I would comment, though, what that protects against, there would be instances, and again, I think Trustee Gerger pointed this out, you have to immediately make that motion. And I think that's in cases where if someone were to be bringing an issue every single meeting, and we're doing that, that would be a time where that motion may be necessary. And partly, these motions are in place, in my view, to protect our constituents who may have any issue they may be concerned about, come here, attend several meetings, be attentive to it, we vote, and they think the matter is settled. And when they go home, go about their lives, and then, the trustee could bring that up and try to, slide it in through the, quietly when people aren't necessarily paying attention. I think that's, in my view, to protect that, because otherwise, again, just protecting against any kind of sneakiness or, just trying to repeatedly do something when someone may not be paying attention.
I'm not sure, you lost me there, I'm not sure which rule you're talking about.
Number 16, it is the motion to prevent reintroduction for 6 months. This motion shall be in order immediately following the defeat of a substantive motion and at no other time. The motion requires for adoption a 2/3 vote. If adopted, the restriction imposed by the motion remains in effect for 6 months. So one, it needs 2/3, and two, it has to be immediately following the action you just took. So as I said, I think that's just to protect against something being brought up every single meeting, which I don't think anyone necessarily do. But again, you know, you're better prepared if you're doing this proactively. So if we're looking at this comprehensively at all, or, you know, to have meeting procedures in place, I think that should be included for a board to be able to do that. If you had a rogue trustee that just didn't care what constituents think, or trying to get something by, you know, I don't know, but.
Yeah, I didn't have a problem with this being in there.
So,
On 16, would you be protected if you required that all 6 trustees needed to be present for that motion to even be brought up? That way you're not, say for instance, one side votes no on something, okay? The next meeting, that person proposes to bring it back up. 2 of those 4 that voted no are absent that week. Now you have a chance of sliding it by. I think the way you protect yourself is to declare how many have, not only is it a 2/3 vote, but it means a 2/3 vote of the full board. Then that way it can't happen.
But that, in a way, to me, is a slide against the minority. Because if you
Well, that's the
do that,
idea. If you lose a vote, if you can't convince someone to change their mind, you should lose the second time.
well, if they're not here the second time, you should retake the vote. And if the vote goes that way, I mean, that's,
No, Matt, you would be the first one to.
I mean, no, I'm serious. If,
Foul on that.
no,
If
if,
that happened to something that.
no, because if we took a vote on this right now and a trustee wasn't here that wanted to vote a certain way that would stop that vote, they would be concerned and upset over that. As would I, because they should have had that opportunity to vote on that, and they couldn't be here.
I think you just made my point.
yeah, but, and we know our meeting schedule ahead of time. If a trustee isn't here on their own accord, now if you're work, you can call in.
So if you have a sick child, so your child shouldn't have got sick, so you can't make the meeting, so.
Not to
We're-
cut
we're
I mean, I know
your,
your
going
kids
on.
get
Yeah.
sick.
not to cut your debate short, if you add 2/3 of the corporate authorities, it doesn't matter who's here, the number's the same.
Numbers, agree. So I would say, because I do think there needs to be limits, but there still needs to be a full debate. I don't know if there's any language that could, you know, where we can suspend if you know, we can suspend that rule by a 2/3 vote, or we can do whatever.
It won't come.
But I think you need timeframes. Just for the fact that it keeps things, and like I said, when we had the garbage was a big issue, we scheduled a public meeting, and people came out and gave us their ideas. And we all had more than enough time to speak on it.
I will say this, any rules that include time parameters, I will not support.
Okay.
That's where I am.
Are there any that would support time parameters? So Ryan, like you say, you're okay with the 10 or 11 or
Yeah, I'm okay.
number
with
10?
10.
B6, B10.
At 5, you're fully against it. Any time limit? What about 20 minutes? Or 25? I mean, 25 minutes is a long time to talk.
And
one
I
individual.
agree. I just, I don't see a need for us to put a specific time frame on it. I don't see a need for it.
Greg, is there any impact if 5 was struck to any other language about initial comment or rebuttal and other motions?
Well, it's gonna impact 10
Yeah.
is what it does. And, you know, the way it reads now, and I want to be clear about this, is you get those 10 minutes, but if you're in those 10 minutes, say you're just starting, there can be a motion to move to question. Even on the before 20 minutes and before that 10 minutes is up, and the 2/3 majority can move that to question. So the way.
What's a move to question do for him?
That's
so they know.
Silences.
Oh,
That makes the
yeah,
vote.
yeah, it stops and it moves it to a vote immediately. So that could happen, and you could be cut off even before those 10 minutes are up. Now, if you strike that, then what we'd want to do is we'd want to take out this language about the opportunity of each board member to make both an initial comment and a rebuttal comment, and clarify that, because to me that calls back to this number 5. So we could put in, you could say in number 10, if made before 20 minutes, then each board member has an opportunity to have 2 minutes of comment, before it goes to question.
Okay.
You could make that rule. So, you could have a call to question and then say, all right, well, not everybody, whoever hasn't spoken on the issue gets 2 minutes, and then
That
go
would
from
be,
there.
I think that would be good.
And that would still need to pass by the 2/3
so
vote.
take,
Would be an acceptable, to me, that would be.
take 5 out and then change 10. So I have a motion
Yeah.
for what? Paul, do you want to make the motion?
Well, wait a minute, is everybody okay with everything else?
Everything else,
Everything else.
those are the sticking
I
points.
had no problems with anything but those.
So we're just on section A5.
So do I have a motion to take out 5?
I'll
And then
make that.
amend 10 to say if there's a move to question, then each person will get an additional 2 minutes to say their piece, and then it'll go to a vote for the move to question.
Do you
I'll make
want
that motion.
before and after the 20 minutes, since there's no minimum, so that everybody, if they want, no matter who's spoken for how long,
Gets a chance to say.
if you have not spoken, you get 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
you choose to use
So
it.
you're still limiting debate, though.
No, well, this would
You
be
have-
after
after
a
20 minutes.
2/3 vote.
Yeah.
So first you got your debate. That's unlimited time frame.
But during your debate, if you say, if somebody makes a move to question, then you're done, everybody else has 2 minutes to say their piece, and then they go a vote on it, and it's got to be a 2/3 vote to be able to stop it.
So I could speak for a minute and somebody call a question.
Well, everyone should have 2 minutes at that point after.
Maybe after a minimum of 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would be okay with that.
After a minimum of 10 minutes.
Yep.
And then prior to 20 minutes,
So you cannot move to question prior to 10 minutes. Absolute ban.
I would say
on-
that.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
so you really want to start the debate, guys, when it comes to. But again, we can suspend this rule if it's a big
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
We might want to look to move it to another meeting and have public input.
I mean, but we don't, I mean, that's my whole thing. We don't need to move and have bigger I mean, we've had
Some
meetings
situations
concerning
we
water, we've had meetings concerning all that right here as a board,
And those weren't
speaking
very
with the public, and we
productive.
don't need to move it out and move it there. And I mean, like you said before,
Those-
they know what our meetings are, and they
Right.
can be here at our meetings and they can speak at our meetings.
But on something that big, those meetings weren't very productive. And the citizens didn't have a back and forth.
Well, they had
In a public
an
meeting.
opportunity up here, and I was,
In a public meeting, they get back and forth, they get questions answered. The way the board meetings used to work with the water is they'd come up and yell at you,
and I know how they worked, I was here.
and you didn't answer anything, because that's just how the process works. But a public
That's how a
meeting
meeting
where you can have back and forth, yeah, but a public meeting where they have input and you answer their questions is much more transparent and much more fruitful and much more, getting where the citizens are.
The green program special meeting was a good example.
Perfect example.
Yeah.
Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, but under the Open Meetings Act, you are required, if you know it's gonna be a big meeting, whether it be 75 people or 150 people, you have to move the meeting. You
Correct.
can't just, out of the Open Meetings Act, you cannot just say, well, you know what, this is it, this is all we got, this is all we
Correct.
can afford.
Right.
No, you have to, under the Open Meetings Act, bring it to the.
That's
Correct.
Yep. So
If you're expecting more than your room can allow.
let's clarify this motion for Greg, so he can.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have a motion to strike 5, amend 10 to say anything, you've got to be given at least 10 minutes but under 20 minutes, somebody can move to question, and each person after that, each remaining trustee on the board would get 2 minutes.
So upon a motion to question, yeah, I've got a couple questions for you, just so we get it right. Upon a motion to question, any trustee who has not spoken on the issue, or just every trustee gets a final 2 minutes?
Maybe every trustee gets a final 2 minutes.
Just every trustee.
Okay, so
So if you have spoken before, you still get to.
So upon the motion, every trustee gets 2 minutes. And so every trustee would get 2 minutes, and then you take a vote on the motion to move to question.
Okay.
So
2/3 vote.
then if it's 2/3, you have an immediate vote on the pending substantive motion. If not, you go back to debate. And then after 20 minutes of debate, each trustee gets a final 2 minutes on the motion. And if the motion carries, then you go to the substantive debate. So essentially, a motion to limit debate gives everybody their final 2 minutes.
Yes.
All right?
I kind of saw both of those.
And I think this board will be reasonable, and if we want to suspend a rule, we will, but future boards may not want to. But I think we've all worked well together. Okay. Next,
Good. Oh, never mind.
new business, preliminary property tax information.
Jerry?
We don't have to pay him anymore.
Sherry left, so.
Is that what she's?
Taxes this year?
We have,
Should we go back to her? Sorry, Sherry, we kept you so. The preliminary property tax information?
Part of the truth in taxation procedures, we need to announce the tax levy in advance, and then go through some different steps. We've got an estimated property tax at $1.495 million. And this is a large estimate. We always estimate high because this is a high growth area, and we need to capture all the annexations, all the new property that may have come in over the year. And if we don't do this, then we'll lose that value, and that won't just affect that property tax year. It's going to affect every year going forward. We're estimating that the per rate for $100 EAD will actually be approximately the same. We've always held our rate 150 cents per $100 of EAD, and that amounts for a $200,000 home value of about, your share of property tax bill would be about $302.
Now, that doesn't mean the county won't change theirs, that's just we're holding steady on ours, right?
Right. So going forward, we would plan to have a hearing prior to passage. The passage of the property tax meeting would be at the first meeting in December, on December 10th. We would hold a hearing prior to that regarding this. I will have a notice put in the paper the last week of November announcing that we're doing this hearing. And also along with this, we will also pass a resolution to rebate the tax levy associated with the 2014 bond.
Abate.
Abate.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we'll take a rebate.
Yeah.
Well, you didn't pay it. You didn't pay it, so you get rebated 0, but.
Rebates for you, rebates for you.
Once again, this does not raise our residents' property tax.
Agree, that's what we got.
What it
Act on
raises
last year.
is the overall piece of pie that's called Chatham.
Right.
And
We claim from the
we
county.
claim it because we have new houses,
New properties.
annexations, all that. Okay?
And
So,
there will also be another publication in the paper explaining this process, to try to explain why the levy is higher
Than last year.
than last year. So we put that in the paper the past 2
because of growth.
Did we capture Glenwood Lake last year, or was that this year?
This
think it was
will be the
this
first
year.
time it comes.
Yeah.
I think this is
First time,
this
yeah,
year.
They were a
That's-
ballot initiative, yeah.
Yeah, so,
Right, right.
you know, you're adding 60 houses just there, plus the new construction.
What about Sweetbriar too? Can we
I
just
think
bring them?
Sweetbriar might have been in the previous year.
Are they? I thought we brought them in this year as well, but, so, yeah.
Prior, yeah.
Anytime we're adding those. Okay, well, thank you. Any questions?
No, but you'll get the question because the notice that has to, the wording that has to go into
Oh,
the
yeah.
notice on the.
We got them
is
last
gonna-
year.
Is going to say that there's a 13%
Increase.
increase in the real estate tax levy.
Yeah.
Keyword is in the levy because that's the total value figure. Sherry adds a separate box in another place in the paper,
Which
or as
is-
close as possible to the notices. Our reporter will put it. That explains more fully that even though it says the total dollar figure goes up, you know, that 12.8 or whatever, the 12.6, it's not on every individual bill that way. That's accompanying when you have any improvements, new housing, new annexation, new land, anything that comes in, the actual charge onto an individual stays right at about that 45 cents per 100.
Right.
It doesn't change. There will be other changes in your tax bill because there's 15 other taxing entities that are on.
A lot of people want a piece of the pie. But our piece will stay the same. It's just the levy grows. Okay, any other questions for Sherry? Thank you so
Sherry.
much. Okay, CMT engineering updates.
Jim was out of town. He called me and said he's not going to be able to make it back in time. So
Okay.
there hasn't been a whole lot going on in this since the last month.
So I did have one question. We fixed that part behind over there in Fox Creek, yeah, behind, what's the?
Carroll's Point.
Carroll's Point. It looks as though that guy, the main yard that was bad, all that flooding prior has worn down, so nothing gets to the drain now. Is there any fill they can put in to where that drains to his drain in his yard again? Because we washed it all away. So he has the big drain in his yard.
Right.
And it used to take the water from their yards, and then our stuff came in and just washed it all out. So the drain sits above the dirt level now.
Oh, yeah, we can get some dirt and bring it in there. We're not completely done out there.
I'll shoot you a text. He gave me a video, and I'll give you the video, see if you guys.
We're not completely finished out there. We got the cut in to be able to handle anything moving over.
And that looks great. And they've all said
And
it's
it needs,
corrected the
it's
problem.
still going to be cleaned up a little bit, so it's easier to mow around and take care of.
okay.
As far as getting the easement at the end, that family finally decided and said, you know what, you don't need an easement, just go ahead and run it on through there. So we've got that at
Good.
least punched through.
Okay, that's why it didn't show back up.
Mhm.
Okay.
Good. All right. Village manager update.
Probably the only thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is we have been going over for the last 2 months, the customer manual that in the office for utility billing and stuff. And we have been accumulating things that need to change and that have changed over the years. We have created a red line document, and I will put that out on, well, I'll email it to all of you so that you can all see it. So you can see what was there before.
What you changed.
Proposed taken out, and what changes we propose to go in there. And then if we want to do it kind of like the budget, if you want to pull 2 of you in at a time and we can go over it and to have any kind of discussions and stuff like that with myself, Sherry, and Jamie in the office, be more than happy to do that. Because there's a lot of changes to it.
Okay.
I'd like that.
Yeah, I'd like to be pulled into.
I would as well.
Can you defend my argument?
That's great.
Mr. Chairman, before you go to the next one.
Yep.
You heard anything from Matrix
I have not.
on the next?
I don't know what's going on with them. They were supposed to have a preliminary or a report to give to us, and then it didn't show up. I sent him an email and a voice message. Didn't hear from him for 2 weeks. Then he called me back, said that he had a personal problem and that they would they would get this taken care of. I gave them another date, and they still haven't met it. So
What's the last thing, communication you've received from him that he said?
probably been 3 to 4 weeks ago.
He was just going to follow up.
Yeah, he said he was going to get us a draft to review.
Okay.
So
Maybe,
we've paid 3/4 of this thing. We have not paid the final bill.
right,
We will not pay the final bill.
so we get final product.
Yeah.
Okay.
We still need to see a draft because we just don't want, now that it's been drawn out so long, we want to see, a lot of things have changed since then. So
Right.
if we have already hired officers or filled a spot here and filled a spot there, we don't want this report to reflect, wait, we ought to do this, we ought to do this if we've already done it.
I mean, should all of us individually call him?
No, I'll call him again.
I did see the chloramines are going to start December 19th, is that correct? The
16th.
16th, okay. And
That was, that thing that I posted today was the press release from the South Sangamon, so.
So Matt, start holding your breath. We'll see. We're hoping.
If people read that very closely, it said to call the plant manager if you had any questions. But he only had a 6-digit phone number. So Joe caught it, pointed it out, and I said, he might have done that intentionally, but the last digit is 0. So I fixed it on the webpage, but.
So that brings us in the Utility Oversight Committee. So we'll be out there and we'll confirm that date. And then to the next meeting, we'll bring that forward.
Which would be the day before.
Yeah. No, we're November 18th.
Right, it goes live 19th, right?
December, a whole month later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have that. That's the Oversight Committee discussion that's what we're going to have at the 18th out there, and we'll directly follow their meeting. And we'll have some questions on different things. ADA Transition Plan Committee update.
I had one more thing.
Okay, I'm sorry.
As far as the weather yesterday, our crews, I think, did a pretty good job of getting the streets clean. That was a tough snow to be able to clear. It started out with kind of freezing rain, then it went to snow, and then it all just almost froze solid. We got it all scraped off the best we could. 2 of our salt trucks went down, and we ended up having to borrow a salt spreader from the township to be able to cover the town. We think we hit pretty much everywhere. It was a village street, but because it was so cold, salt doesn't really work. I mean, it's almost neutral at 20 degrees. If you get above that, then it'll start working. And then the sun today was a tremendous help on it, and it's supposed to be sunny the rest of the week. So I think we'll be okay, but we've got to seriously look at replacing a few of our old trucks, even if we replace them with newer old trucks.
Right.
You know what happened to the 2?
One of them, the brakes locked up and burned up. The other one, something that we had to send that off because we didn't have the equipment to be able to force this pin out. So, yeah.
Great. All right. ADA Transition Plan Committee update.
Yeah, okay, so on the onboard docs, we have loaded all of the documentation for the ADA transition plan. The transition plan is essentially complete, and I need you guys to take a look at it and review it. There's a few questions, a few things that that we will have to decide. I brought them up a little bit at the last meeting. The budgeting plan, how we're going to budget year over year, percentage complete needs to be part of the transition plan. So that those numbers need to be filled in via discussion of the board.
I think a big part of that, as far as the funding and stuff, we should, and I know there's a lot of grants and stuff out there for ADA stuff. And I think that's one thing we should really look at, is going after some of those grants and from the feds, the state, and other groups that are not government groups. that issue and offer grants.
Yeah, I think
for
this
ADA
is,
projects.
I think this is where one of the concerns from the staff that was raised is the time frame for how we're going to be able to accomplish this. And I think as a board, we're going to have to walk a balance between aggressive enough to prove that we're doing something and keeping it going without breaking the budget trying to accomplish it, which is, the thing that we do all the time. But we do have to put, in this instance, we do have to put it in the document saying that we plan to do arbitrarily 10% year over year of completion of the ADA plan.
And it's not tough to show that,
No.
because you can work on sidewalk projects and the grading for those, and what I call it, the bumpy sidewalk. That's not the proper term, of course, but, just creating and adding more of those as sidewalks that don't have them. Just, even the little things in the ADA world are big things.
Yeah.
Because it makes things more accessible than they were before, accessible now.
As part of that plan, are we going to have to add sidewalks to Old Chatham? Or are they grandfathered?
There are sections.
There are a few sections, most of which have already been dealt with. What we've got is a listing. If you look in the documentation, there's a listing of the highest priority sidewalks, and then which are already in place. However, we need to revisit them and make sure that they fit and meet all ADA compliance. And then I think we got 3 levels.
Okay.
And that's how it.
Kind of like we graded the roads.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the sidewalks are done alphabetically, right? Because you weren't providing preference over one or the other.
No,
That's what I read.
there is a preference in the actual documentation of let's see,
Sidewalk.
priority list for sidewalks.
Yeah. It's in the middle there.
Yep.
B.
There's actually a
Those priority routes, B, alphabetical order. Anyway.
Scroll down.
The one thing that I had a question about was the ADA coordinator. That's not an existing position, is it?
correct.
And that would be then obviously a new hire. You're thinking a full-time person? Is that what the committees?
No, I believe what we're thinking is this will be added to, at least currently, this will be added to a current a current employee, an additional responsibility for a current employee.
Okay.
At least for the time being, until there's proven, right, until it's proven that it requires a full-time.
The thing that helps us now too is with our crews not doing the branches and the limb pick, and the leaf bags. They can do 25% concrete work for roads, 25% concrete work for sidewalks, 25% towards asphalt work, and 25% towards oil and chip. Now with the taxes and stuff that went in place, we expect to get additional funds. I think Jim mentioned roughly 35 to 40%. So we'll get 60% of what they collect new,
Yeah,
Okay.
well, whatever you're getting now.
plus an additional
add
60.
60%.
That'll help a lot. So that could easily help us set our goal of how much sidewalk work we're gonna do over the year. And then we'll use our rating system then on where those sidewalks are gonna take care of.
Go out and do them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions for Ryan?
We've been using.
I noticed in several places that trustee Fountain is mentioned. Just thought I'd point that out.
I thought I got his name out of there.
There's at least one section called the website layout. Again, not a big deal. I'm just telling you
Okay.
what I saw.
Yeah, like the website layout, that was all part of the documentation of,
The establishment of the.
yeah, exactly, of the establishment. So like, that was last updated in 2017. So
Yeah.
when we are to move forward with this, we'll have to update this document.
Yep. The only other thing, sorry, I'll mention now is just there is something called the non-compliant form where a citizen could file a complaint or a concern of this area not being compliant. And I just thought it would make sense to not have a paper form by itself, but rather put it in like the 311 application or something.
This was actually to be put into a web form, but we need this framework in place first before we can start saying, hey, we need to go fix these things. So that's why this is actually a rough layout for some form to be put on a web page.
Yeah, I guess it wouldn't hurt to put it in, even if we don't have a formal plan. It would be nice to know of areas that may not be on a list already.
Yep, and that's what the purpose of this particular document is.
All right. Any further discussion?
I was hoping to get the duties as assigned when we move around to the next budget time. Or that one staff member or a couple of them to be able to handle maybe different duties in the.
Okay.
Yeah, I will say that is one concern, trustee Detmers, about the non-compliance form and being careful when we put it out. We know we need to be able to support the requests that come in as well.
Yeah, or at least,
create
an inventory of.
Exactly. But it's one of those things where you can't just, hey, we're going to throw out this website, but then not have any internal process or personnel to assign to deal with it. So,
Okay. Next, Public Property and Recreation Committee discussion.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we were unable to meet last night due to weather. We did have 2 items on the agenda, which we will hope to push to November 25th, and those items are the final review of the Public Properties Comprehensive Plan, and then just the final discussion about the summer recreation program. And then both those items would be brought forth to this board to present.
Okay. Any public comments on village business? I didn't have anybody sign up, but if anybody has any comments. All right. Do we have any reason for closed session? No? I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that
I'll
motion.
make a second.
Trustee Churchill, second by trustee Detmers. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you, everyone, for the spirited discussion.
Certainly novel.